This conference will now be recorded.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Chair Hildenbrand,
Present.
Vice Chair Cortez,
Present.
Councillor Corn,
Here.
Councillor Marujo, Councillor Oropesa. You have a quorum.
Okay, if I can get a motion of approval of minutes.
Move the approval of the minutes.
Oh, the agenda, well, I'm sorry. Approval of-
No, you need to do the minutes first, do you not?
Got it. You got it backward. No, we can do the agenda.
Okay. Move approval of the agenda.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the agenda for today's meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, none, so moved. Now we can get approval of the minutes.
Approval of the minutes.
Second.
Got a motion to approve the minutes of the January 30 meeting, in a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'd just like to take a minute to ask everyone to put the Oropesa family in their prayers. One lost his loving wife of many, many years last week. And one and his wife have both been servants of this city. She worked in the water billing department, she worked in the sanitation department, and we're lifelong residents of this community. So if everyone would put the Oropesa family in their prayers, it would be deeply wonderful. So services tomorrow, 10 o'clock at St. John's.
Yes, sir.
So, okay. Let's have the Community Development Center. We have anybody here? You.
Me. Good afternoon. We've got our numbers for January attached for you. Not a whole lot out of the ordinary, but I did want to take a minute to just tell you our business license, our new business license clerk. I think she's doing a really good job. Our numbers, as you can see, are trending upward. She's catching a lot of people out of compliance, like Golden Corral, Target, places like that had been out of compliance since 2020. And so she's just doing a really good job. I wanted to give her some recognition, just catching these kinds of things and catching it back up the way it should be. So you can see those are trending upwards, and I just think that that's a good improvement we've had. And I don't have much else to report. Does anyone have any questions about the numbers for January?
It's just, you can see there's some increased activity in the community. Our building residentials are up. Same period, we're up 8 homes. And commercial is up 2 from the previous year. So that's a good sign of increased activity in the community. And our fee structure, our permits are up and our fees collected are up 3 times the amount. You know, when we put the holiday on, it just didn't do a dang thing, but we tried. So
I think the online payments, having that as an option, really helps.
it's helped as well. Yeah. Okay, anyone have any questions? Okay. Next item on the agenda is our HR.
Hey, hello, everyone. For January, the city had 18 new hire employees, 11 promotions, and 22 exits, which did include 1 retiree. Turnover rate for the month of January so far is 2.88%. Vacancy rate is 27.82%. Payroll count for January 24th to February 6th was 622 total paid employees, 625 total employees, and 3 employees were out in an unpaid status.
Mr. Chair, it looks like we're down 4 police.
Yeah, I see that.
Police related persons.
Claim service technician. Police officer, office assistant. Another officer.
Yeah, 2 officers.
So it looks like we lost 2 patrol officers.
That's just a tough one to gather up for some reason. That's just a tough one to gather up for some
It is,
reason.
well,
It always has been, Mr. Chair. My mother worked for the records department, for the police department for many, many years. And this is not new, a new phenomenon with law enforcement, particularly when they get their certifications.
Oh, yeah. We pay, they leave.
We have a hard time competing with the state police department. They're bumping 14%.
And that hasn't gone into effect yet, but it will probably July 1st. It's gonna be even worse.
But they've had some other bumps in recent years that have not helped.
well, they increase their staffing levels for this year as well. So hopefully at some point in time that will level out.
Oh, right.
So, but we got a budget coming up, so we'll see what happens.
And just to make everyone aware, we are in, they have requested negotiations and we are in negotiations with the police department union, and really pleased with the tone that's been set by the new leadership in that union organization, and reaching out that we'll work together to find solutions.
Great. Great. Any question?
Goal to complete the negotiation for the budget. The goal would be to complete the negotiations to the budget. There is no set amount of time that occurs.
Theirs is, Mike, do you recall the timing of their?
I don't anticipate what we're in with the blue collar, fixing one with the police, the fire will, a certain time comes up next month, there'll be a requesting to open up negotiations. It'll go through to the, out of December or July, because state law says you can only negotiate for what's been budgeted. Everything's been given in this budget, so there's nothing in, we don't have a new budget yet. So we don't know what's going to be available yet. So all the negotiations will go into August, maybe September.
So in terms of the current fiscal year, the budget's already been set. So in terms of financial piece, 4% was given, and that's, there's no negotiating beyond that in terms of financial for the current fiscal year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are they in the 4% gave last time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sometimes they don't. Things get out of step a little bit and they don't get the COLA.
I agree. Yeah, it's, we want, there have been years where we didn't have funding for raises or increases. And you know where I stand. I think as a city, as an organization, we always need to stay one step ahead of inflation to make sure we're being competitive. But quite frankly, in looking at the salary schedules, when you've got 20 steps stretched across there, I'd much rather see that condensed so it's meaningful in the step regime.
Like we did for the fire department.
Yes, sir.
It's the police moving on that idea.
Yeah, we've had discussions. I'll say we had discussions. I don't want to generate a prohibited practices complaint, but we've had some discussions on that. They're being thoughtful in their approach, reviewing what they've got. As you recall with fire, the leadership in fire, very accommodating to their younger folks, and they took a 2%, so others could have a 5 or a 6%. In terms of that 4% pot of money.
Divide and conquer.
I love to see us supporting the next generation coming up. It's leadership.
No, they did a good job with that over at the fire department,
They did.
and their union accepted that and everything was fine. So
And you've
that was
recently
good.
seen their financial activity through the first 6 months of the year. They are holding to their overtime. With the fire department, they decreased overtime in order to put a portion of that into their salaries, and would like to see that.
And they're currently fully staffed, are they not? No,
So they're currently about 14 short.
but they got a bunch of recruits going through now, do they not?
This last Saturday, police and fire did a joint testing.
Okay,
I think the fire had about 22 show up. And I believe that afternoon they written tested 10. how many of those 10 pass.
So they're getting close then. If they
They're
could-
getting closer, but they're really watching that over time and hiring a firefighter for a firefighter if they have to overtime instead of a lieutenant
Right,
for a firefighter. So they're being very diligent in how they manage that overtime.
good.
That it was a joint testing.
During testing, they, police and fire both did it at the same time, and you can come try out for both of them.
Okay.
And try. Had a radio station out there, had a big deal.
Of that number that came, how many took the test, the written test?
22, I believe it was 22 for the fire department.
Right.
And I believe they tested that you had to pass a physical fitness. That afternoon, they gave the written test. And I want to say it was either 10 or 12 that they gave the written test to.
How many was 10? How many got the police?
I didn't, I didn't remember that.
I didn't encounter Counselor Howerson or Counselor.
I did not. That we did the practice test the week before. They didn't show back.
Oh, they didn't show back up. Just wanted to see if they were in that number. They're changing careers. So, any other questions? Thank you. Hey,
That's it. Two police did.
who did pass? Good. Okay. Ms. Bell. Good afternoon.
You today.
Good, thank you for asking.
See you today. To give a report, we had a total of 24 incidences in the month of January, with 11 of those being third-party cause. We had property damage. We had 2 reports of property damage, motor vehicle accidents. I'm sorry, we had 2 reports of the property damage and 0 of those were third-party caused. We had 10 motor vehicle accidents, with 5 of those being caused by third party. If you noticed on the next page, I have it planned out in the year, but I've also added another column to show you the total of how many of the incidents per department were third party caused, just to make it a little bit easier to see for within the year. Also, on our injury and illness report, we had 13 either injured or hurt somehow, and 7 of those were third-party caused. So 6 were slip, strips, and falls or something else. If you notice, there's a description. We had an ankle injury, back injury, hand and leg, another back injury, a laceration. I gave those to you so that you'd be able to see what we were looking at. And again, 7 of those were third-party caused. With our training schedule, in the month of January, we had a total of 907 hours of training that was completed by 268 employees. And we had incoming recovery funds of $16,431.79. Also, last month, Councilman Orpesa had asked how many people had left that had had training. And so what I showed from the beginning of the year is a total of 23 employees, 7 had no training. They participated in no training. And 16 of those participated in the last 2 years in 252 hours of training.
Question, Mr. Chair.
I stand for any questions.
What kind of training are they, that 907 hours, is that like a?
We have a wide arrangement of training. It could be slip, trip, and fall, walking, working surfaces. It could be fall protection. It could be asbestos awareness. It could be MSHA training. We have water, how to work on the valves for water. We have several different types of training.
Right.
All of it, we come back to safety part of it. We also have in there the heavy equipment training. So CDL and backhoe and front end loader and dump truck and scraper and motor grader.
Right. Well, it looks at this like, it's like strip trip fall is a big one.
Yes, it is. That's why
Maybe get
we
that
just had
out there.
that training. recently, and we made sure that anyone who had an issue with slip, trip, and fall
Right.
did receive a attendance
Yeah.
request.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. And obviously, again, Mr. Chair, we see that our police officers are, taking it on the chin, actually and literally. And it's just
If you
something
notice,
that, yeah,
all 7 of those were third-party calls with our police officers, and they do have to,
expected.
they have to endure quite a bit.
Yeah.
And even though they can try to be as cautious and careful as possible, they still get the brunt of it, yes.
Yeah.
And our slips, trips, and fall happened when we had the snow and ice.
Okay.
That was I think, all but one.
Does the city do the OSHA, they do OSHA 300 logs, all that?
Yes, sir, we did.
Okay. And do you have the 2024 300
I don't
log?
have them with me. I will be more than happy to get those and present those.
Yeah, it's great to see the annual or the quarterly
Yes, sir.
OSHA logs, hours worked versus
Yes, sir.
how's our TRIR?
Well, we just have a question. We've just been getting a lot of requests for report from the different departments, from museum and from police. But the way I do it is I put them all together. So if we have
You're
to
advocating
separate them out, then it'd be different for each.
department. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, thank you.
So I'll make sure that we have that.
Yeah, just quarterly, like if you have a generalized TRIR before the OSHA log,
Yes, sir.
overall, it'd be nice to see. Thank you.
Any further questions?
Thank you.
Just so you know, I just pass over the city clerk's report. Let the report stand as known from the clerk's office here. So let the report stand as is.
Do they have training or something? Did I see?
Municipal league,
Yes, sir.
Yep. Okay. Legal department.
Thank you.
You guarantee we've been legal all month?
Pretty legal, at least,
Okay.
right?
Legal.
So, legal department has been, we've been working through, processing various tort claims, with, of course, safety's help doing some investigations. I've been in communications with some of our vendors. They're perking up after inquiries vis-a-vis RARA and how we want to, what, if any, exposure we may have in addition to our present liability as to an airport. And so those are in preliminary discussions with that, and that's something that Hess and I are discussing. And now that we have a little bit more firm footing there, been doing actually a spike in prosecutions on code enforcement matters. People have been going to jail literally because they've been given 5 months to clean up every possible opportunity, and they just can't manage it. And so, the unfortunate end result there is they sometimes end up having to spend some time in jail, like to reevaluate their priorities. Working through requests for records things. We have some people requesting some sensitive records, and so that's subpoenas will probably likely be forthcoming from those people. Working on some training for the police to help them in some changes in Fourth Amendment law in New Mexico's Article 2, Section 10 stuff, to help them do better and help the city not have to, be explaining things. We get closer, we get better at it. We don't have to have as many potential tort claims. There's just no facial reason to file it. People will still, but it's easier to defend it if it's meritless. We're doing a few expungements. That we just there was one today happening right now. No issues. So we just file a notice of no opposition to that. And from my conversations with Hess, we're reworking the entire agreement with the National Guard and the Youth Challenge League on what buildings they're going to use. We have addendum on our leases, and then we have amendments, and we're just like, let's sit down, repackage it all in a new one, present it so it's just clear and not trying to keep track of what list of what addendum we're on. We'll just for some simplification, basically.
Mr. Chair, if I could chime in on that particular lease with the Army National Guard. As you know, they're located out on our airport. Their facility, their maintenance facilities are there. They also operate the Youth Challenge, the old barracks, as they're commonly referred. One of the issues, and so Hess and Josh and Bobby Thompson have been working together. Those properties being on the airport have to comply with FAA standards for rents. And we've been working with General Aguilar as well with the National Guard. We believe and have proposed to continue to lease the Youth Challenge facilities for $1 per year.
Right.
With the understanding and part of the agreement, we received some in-kind services from Youth Challenge in helping clean up our airport, keep it nice and pristine. My understanding is they fully agree to that and are good. The other facility will require standard FAA competitive rental rates.
For the National Guard.
For the Armory.
Armory.
Yes, sir.
Have we thought about, I mean, I don't know, what's our income stream off of that? Do you know?
It's been $1 per year for too long, and that's an FAA.
I know, and so have we explored the idea of a potential land swap with the state?
No. We have not.
Is there something around here that we might want to trade for? Or?
I hear what you're saying, but you're gonna have to deal with FAA, so I think
Right, but
our first initial pass is, good luck with that.
it's just another alternative to look at. And then we wouldn't have to deal with it, then become state property and we're done.
That's true. As you know, we've recently gone through that dance with the FAA on land, and it's pretty arduous.
I get it.
Yeah. You know, my take on it, I've served in the National Guard. They have a budget for their armories, and that's part of it. And it's not on the realm of possibility to charge fair market value on the rent. We would like to continue with the $1 per year for Youth Challenge, because about every 5 or 6 years on a cycle, when budgets are tight in the state of New Mexico, what we see is Youth Challenge sometimes comes up on the chopping block. And just from personal experience, and I think a lot of people would reflect this, that has been an outstanding program. It's one of the few programs that actually works for high-risk youth. And we want to certainly see that continue here in Roswell, New Mexico. It was implemented here. It's one that works, and the community gets a lot of benefit out of it.
You're so right.
So we'd like to supplement
It's a
that.
triple net lease, so they're taking care of everything out there. So
So the next time the argument comes up, we can say, you're getting this facility for only $1 a year. So the rest of your operating costs we're helping you with that.
When your National Guard thing, they built that building.
They did.
Built the yard. I know, because I carried legislation for it.
I was in the old building out on 2nd Street for my first drill, and then we were in the new building for my second drill. Yes, sir. Yeah.
So it's just a land,
land lease.
Yes.
be pretty marginal.
Yeah, it's not a big number.
No.
Would not be a big number. So, Ms. Dorover?
Mr. Chairperson, I want you to know that Youth Challenge twice a year does cleanups at the Youth Challenge, at the base, and at the airport for Keep Chaves County Beautiful. And they're doing one on the 9th of March for us, and they'll do one just before the air show.
Yeah, and then last year they helped participate in cleaning up Cielo Grande as well. The park area over there, and they did a great job of getting those cleaned up. So no, we get a lot of contribution. This community, with the flood, they were out helping victims and everything. So we get a tremendous amount of benefit from them being located here. So.
Judy did all the talking, I handed out my cookies, and we got $2 million to refurbish one of the old barracks. You all knew that, right? This one here.
Those are expensive cookies.
We talked to the secretary.
Okay, thank you. We shall now move on. Next item is the development plans for Cielo Grande. I brought that up at the last meeting and we asked for more information. And what was given to us is the economic development plan, which unfortunately was written in 2015 and is another unfortunate plan city put together in 2017. And it was another great plan, but right on the shelf.
We collected we collected dirt till you mentioned it. Had to go find it and blow it off.
And now this plan, the economic numbers are way outdated. All numbers, whether it has to do with the house, with costs are outdated. Everything in here is outdated, but the concept of the plan is not outdated. So,
Got a picture of a building that's no longer there.
exactly. Yeah. But again, I think that the area over there is just like our airport that we have now. The old airport is got tremendous potential for development and creating multi-use, which could incorporate affordable housing, all kinds of different, as this report generally said. It's a shame we didn't act on it. It is what it is. So, and unfortunately, there's a lot of people put a lot of time into this. And I don't know what we paid for it, but so let's talk about it.
Page 10 is the demolition of that building that's on the front.
Right? The great old building out there. Police station was there for. Yep.
We moved there from over on Second Garden.
Right, from the old,
And used to be Army Navy store there.
still is, yeah, they're closing down, but anyway. Please.
So in addition to that, I also asked Meredith to be here today. I'm gonna have her send the slides here in a minute. She was here at that time. I was not, so she can speak a lot more to what went on and maybe answer more questions than I can. In addition, in your packet, I included the current zoning on those areas, so the mixed use plaza district. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at those. I think that's a big problem right now. Currently, I think the zoning is a problem, even regardless of the plan, that we need to definitely start there. If you look at the Article 70, the design guidelines, just using this as an example, structures in that area shall be multiple stories with the bottom floor being used for commercial purposes and upper floors shall be used for residential purposes. So that's a great concept, which makes that a requirement for every structure in the entire, I think it's 116 acres,
Right.
is not encouraging development, in my opinion. So there's a lot of things like that that I provided for you to just be able to go through and look at that. Additionally, one of the PowerPoints that Bill Morris had previously presented on that, and I'm not going to go through that because I don't know what he said during his presentation, but I wanted to provide it to you so you could see at least what he had worked on. Meredith will talk a little bit about that, I think, in her slides. So I don't know if you want to pull those up and go through that.
Yes.
Does everybody know where this area is at?
Yeah. I was gonna ask you. So these zoning ordinances were passed.
Correct.
Okay. Then so they're active, and then this MXP. Which part of the MXP?
It is the 116 acres on the top left. It's on the next slide.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll let you guys continue.
Yeah, see that purple square.
Yeah, it's not fair to jump ahead.
I know. I'm sorry. 6 espressos today.
Yeah.
Can we go back to the first slide, please?
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, councilors. This one? Yes, thank you.
Bob, you want to move down a bit closer?
You got to get my feet steady.
I was trying to.
Well, you think I'm scared of
No,
being on camera?
no, I was expecting it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, councilors. The OMA area is approximately 400 acres. You can see the different areas of OMA, College Boulevard, Montana, 8th Street, Cielo Grande, takes up a quadrant of that as well. On the second aerial there on the first slide, yeah. In the blue area, the blue outline, that's OMA. Above that, from the blue line to the red line, that's private land. That was Eden Lands. It's now being developed with the Oaks. And there's a couple of other properties just above the blue line next to Sycamore that's owned, I think, by Dr. Milgren. Anyway, inside that blue line is the OMA area. You can go to the next slide, please. Okay, this is the zoning map. We've got in the yellow down by the golf course, very low density, I think.
Yes, residential very low.
Residential, very low residential. The kind of shaded pink area is low density residential. And then the purple is the mixed use plaza, and that's over 100 acres. And I've been looking at this since it happened, and I'm not quite sure how it happened, but there was not a public input process. There was an OMA master plan that Bill Morris put together. And it went through, a conceptual plan was approved by City Council. I guess it went through General Services Committee, Finance Committee, Infrastructure Committee, and then back to City Council. But I'm not aware of any public input process from the public about this plan. The zoning, I believe, is on city-owned land especially to have 1 and 2 acre minimum lot sizes next to a regional park doesn't make any sense to me. That should be high density patio homes, townhomes, apartments. That should be a higher density residential, and especially with the need for affordable housing across the country and in our region and attainable housing, that is a very good we're blessed to have that land so that we can take care of our population and spur economic development by providing housing, job opportunities, a place for schools, other facilities that are needed, and integrated with walkable paths and trails and so forth to that regional park system that we already have in place. You can go on to the next slide, please. So in the 2016 Comprehensive Master Plan, this was designated by the consultant, which was Consensus Planning at the time. And they did go through a public input process, but this was supposed to be like a master planned mixed use area. And when I think of a master plan, I think of a public input process in that master planning, especially on publicly held land. So in the highlighted area, you see the city of Roswell is working on creating a mixed-use zoning overlay district for the area in anticipation of public-private partnerships to develop Cielo Grande property. So There you go. The next slide, please, is excerpt from the Comprehensive Master Plan of 2016, Chapter 10, Implementation. These are the land use implementation strategies. I just want to call your attention to a couple of these. Strategy 1.3, develop amendments to the zoning ordinance to provide for greater flexibility in development standards, allow mixed use within the downtown area, railroad district, and the Cielo Grande area old municipal airport, and provide a more graduated scale minimum lot sizes for single-family development.
Excuse me, Mayor, there was no action taken.
You got this, you got the zoning map that,
Yeah, but there was no action of the council.
Well, that was actually 2016.
this was 2016.
Then we
Right.
kind of went a completely different direction.
Yeah,
right.
on the zoning map, they went a different direction.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And I have more slides, more
Another
input.
portion
Come
of
in.
that was MXP. Like all up that big bubble of master plan, from
Yeah.
the master plan, a smaller portion of that became that MXP overlay zone. Sorry.
100 acres.
Yeah, it's 16 acres.
Okay, and the strategy 1.4 there, no, I mean, excuse me, 1.5, identify excess city-owned properties that would be available for sale, lease, or donation for affordable housing and or economic development purposes. This could also include coordinating with other local agencies such as Chavez County or Roswell Independent School District to identify properties that could be considered for similar purposes. Strategy 1.7, perform corridor studies along minor arterial roads to improve neighborhood services and transitions to larger commercial areas, which may include zone map amendments and facade improvements. We have really not done corridor studies in our community. And we've done a bicycle pedestrian master plan, but we don't have like very dedicated corridor studies in our community that I've seen in other communities. So just wanted to call your attention to a couple of those. All right, we can go on to the, and on that chapter 8, neighborhoods, housing. Stay on that slide, please. This is from the Comprehensive Master Plan as well. Neighborhoods and housing goals, objectives, and implementation strategies. Neighborhoods and housing goal number 1 is to promote a variety of housing types, sizes, and price ranges to accommodate the housing needs of existing and future residents. Objective A is to decrease the number of families and individuals that spend more than 30% of their household income on housing and utility costs, the cost burden households. And I went and looked at our affordable housing plan. This was a affordable housing plan. And these numbers are based on 2013. The plan was adopted in 2016 as well. 27% of the households in Roswell in 2013 were paying over 30% of their income on housing. These are the housing cost burdened populations. 41% of senior renters were housing cost burdened, meaning paying over 30% of their income on housing. 18% of senior homeowners also. So 41% senior renters, 18% senior homeowners, and then all age group renters, 41% to 43% were experiencing housing cost burdens, paying over 30%. We also have a very old housing stock. 38% of our housing was built before 1960. 48% was built between 1960 and 1990. That means that 86% of our housing stock is 35 plus years or older. That's significant. In the 2016 comp plan, based on 2013 numbers, there were 17,068 households in Roswell. 68.8% of those were family households, 31.2% were non-family households. And 76.2% of the housing stock was single-family detached in 2013. So we don't have that much in terms of apartments or townhomes, which would be single-family attached. Anyway. Just want to give you a little overview of that. Objective B, to increase the availability of rental and ownership workforce housing. Objective C, to diversify and expand the housing stock with new multifamily, townhouse, and condominium developments. Objective D, to accommodate the affordable housing needs of special populations, including elderly, disabled, homeless, and veterans. Another strategy is neighborhoods and housing implementation strategy number 1.2, identify and work with nonprofit community development corps that would be interested in building affordable housing and housing rehabilitation in Roswell. So those are just, a few items that I just wanted to say. These were adopted plans that had public input. Okay, we can go on to the next slide. So these are OMA's current conditions. The Omaha Municipal Airport consists of 400 plus acres of city-owned land. Like I said, there is no current master plan, land use plan for OMA that has gone through a complete public input process. Case 19-011 zone change was a mass rezoning of OMA's city-owned land to RVL, residential very low, 1 to 2 units per acre. RL, which is residential low with 2 to 4 units per acre, and MXP, mixed use plaza. The RVL and RL zoning districts are not compatible with the 2016 comprehensive plan goals for attainable housing nor the affordable housing plan goals that I just went over. Okay, next slide, please. So the future of OMA. Okay, so what are we going to do with it now?
Yeah.
The 2025 comprehensive master plan process that we're just embarking on has the potential to significantly determine the highest and best use for the 400-acre city-owned OMA land through a public input process that includes a 5-day charrette, which is a participatory engagement public design workshop that the consultants Able City are going to hold in May of 2025. So that's coming up. So there'll be a 5-day opportunity for residents and stakeholders to come and provide input into the comprehensive plan. It makes more sense for the city-owned land adjacent to regional open space, Cielo Grande Park, being zoned for mixed density residential development with higher density R3 and R4 zoning to accommodate small lots, duplex and multifamily lots, townhomes, patio homes, and apartment complexes with smart city and smart growth design standards for bicycle and pedestrian comfort, sustainability, transit access, education, integrated green space, workforce opportunities, and access to existing and developing regional recreational facilities. And that's just good planning practice. People with 1 to 2 acre lots, they have their own recreation space in their backyards. That's their regional park. Okay, go ahead. And once adopted, the 2025 Comprehensive Master Plan will serve as a new policy guide for appropriate rezoning of the current 400-acre OMA, RVL, RL, and MXP for higher density mixed use residential, commercial, institutional office parks, and recreational functioning and well-designed livable neighborhoods that provide attainable housing as well as educational and employment opportunities. And a more detailed master development, utility, and real estate plan for the orderly and phased appraisal, land sales, subdivision, and development processes of OMA will provide the private and public landowners with concise, data-driven economic and market-based information essential for successful land development. So the last thing we want to do is just start selling land and then there's no plan and no organized framework for development, because we want the land to be developed and used for economic base and stimulus for our economy here. It's really important that it's done in a coordinated effort.
Yeah.
And I stand for questions.
Well, Meredith, I thank you for this. This has been something that, you and I have had some conversation on before about where we're going to go and create opportunities for attainable housing. I don't like to use the word affordable because I don't know what that means anymore. And so, but it's not up to the city to really get into that business. It's up to the city to provide the opportunity for others to get into that business. And that we can come up with a plan inside here, because, you know, the state legislature is talking about putting their own housing department, whatever that's going to be, and whatever filter down to municipalities. We don't know what that looks like yet. We get this going, and this will be a part of our new master plan, correct? That this is going to, this whole area will encompass that. And it makes absolutely no sense at all when you talked about the density. That doesn't even go with our current, what do we allow, 6 point whatever per acre, lots per acre? We're going to allow.
I'm not sure what happened there. I didn't have input into that process for some reason, so.
I have no idea what that was there for. It makes zero sense at all. But I don't.
Well, we have an opportunity.
Maybe we're going to do ranchettes inside the city. I don't. So, give us a status of where we're at with the master.
Sure, we have a kickoff meeting. They'll be coming down. Our consultant will be coming down the first week of April. I want to say the 3rd through the 7th. I might have to look at my calendar to tell you that's the accurate date. Really quick. Yes, the 1st through the 3rd, I'm sorry. They will be here, so that's a Tuesday through a Thursday. They'll meet with Meredith and I, show them around the city for their initial meeting, and then they plan their public engagement aspect. May, we're looking at the 12th through the 16th. So they'd be here that entire week, putting on workshops, engaging with the public.
Okay.
They want to focus on 4, it's obviously a master plan for the entire city, right? But their idea was to focus on 4 sort of major areas for growth and development, this being one of those.
Right, okay. How long do you anticipate the master plan will take to put together before we see a final product?
I think a year probably from that. I don't know if I want to say the initial meeting we already had or from April, but.
About a year out. Okay. Mr. Mayor.
You know, to me, I have a huge problem with this idea that they have out there in the Oaks, or whatever you call that place, that you can do away with all the alleys and increase the density and have all the trash picked up on the street. And when there's not going to be even enough places to park the cars in front of every home. And I mean, it doesn't make sense to me when you, and especially the more you increase the density and the higher density you have, and you take away all the parks in the neighborhood, where are those kids going to play? I mean, there's no basketball goals if the the driveway's not straight, that's kind of somewhat level. You can't really have a basketball goal out there, and you have all these kids are going to be now playing in the street because that's the only place they have. And you're going to have trash cans out there. You're going to have cars. And I think there's, in all that stuff, took out all the parks to me and just said, have them go down and play at Cielo Grande. And I don't think that's the kind of neighborhood you could have high density in. I think there's a value to having an alley and having people go down the alley to pick up the trash, to keep that size of vehicle from being operating in a neighborhood safely with children. And I don't know, maybe I'm old fashioned, but I look at that and when you stack, I mean, every house has at least 3 cars. Damn near. I mean, just go look, and they're there, and you know, the more you increase that density, I think it gets worse, and it just makes for a dangerous street for people to go down. And in that, of course, in any of this stuff, the more you have a collector street in the middle of all of it, which really the Oaks doesn't really have other than Nevada. To me, it creates an awful lot of dangerous situations, and I don't want to build another subdivision like that where they're and we had it all one size. Yeah, big. I know we have to do xeriscaping on landscape on everything. Damn near we do. I mean, that just needs to be because we're in a desert, and but you know, to have in a block where there's really no place for kids to have a merry-go-round or to have even if they don't play it, maybe there's no place for them to have any basketball goals or tetherball or anything else and swings. In a high-density area, I think that's silly because they're all going to end up mixed with a place for children to play, and the street is not the answer. And I think everything is guilt out there is guided towards having people play in the street because there's no room for any other place for them to be. And I hope we don't do anything else like that that's out there now, in my opinion. I have no problems with the alley. When you have people, to me, the trash truck drivers have enough to worry about going down the alley and picking up trash and cars and everything else. They don't need to be worried about children in the street. And I think that's what we have. That's what we created. And maybe it won't be so bad in the winter, but in the summer, I think it's going to be a real nightmare. But that's just me.
Mr. Chairman, Councilors, Mayor Jennings, the homes in the Oaks are R1. They are a minimum 6,000 square feet lot size each. So their density is between 5 and 7 units per acre. One of the thoughts at the time when that development was occurring about alleys was law enforcement doesn't really like alleys. So that was one contributing factor. The city engineer likes alleys for the reasons you were stating. So those are some things we can look at. There's no real master plan for the Oaks, and I've talked to Jim Mitchell and his team at one of our development review committees that we community development holds every week. And we talked about, like, we really need a whole master plan for this. So, yeah, there's only 4 units that have been platted, and one is under development now by French Brothers. One of the things I'd like to just put out there while we're having this discussion is, like, what values does the city of Roswell hold in disposing or transferring of land? Okay. Does it align with the need for affordable and attainable owner-occupied and renter-occupied housing, which is a huge need in Roswell and the region? It's going to become more apparent probably. The need for public school facilities in that area. The Military Heights School, which is the nearest school, it's capacitated out. It's beyond capacity. our recreation, open space, institutional lands, commercial retail is our driver for the economy as well, the stewardship of land, and the design, livability, and quality of life standards that we want to attain and hold. And this is for existing and future neighborhoods. So one of the things in the comprehensive plan exercise is we can think about these kinds of values and what we want as a community, what we want to envision and what we want to bring into the future. Okay, one of the prettiest places in the city, I think, is the Cahoon Park area with the trees and the walls. And I did have Texas Tech, the Urban Tech come in and do a regional, like a plan for us, kind of just a study. And that was out of the Texas Tech College of Architecture in around 2018 or so. I can't remember exactly when that happened. But one of the things that they talk to people and other plans that they've thought about and done. What does it mean? What does open space mean to people? Different groups of people. Does it mean a little dog park? Does it mean like a little sitting area? Does it mean like a big playground? Or does it mean street trees along a roadway edge? So what does that mean to different people? So I think integrating a beautiful design that's walkable, that's tree, that has maybe some architectural elements like the stone walls, that could be very, very beautiful and engaging, and people want to walk in those areas. And those are the kinds of neighborhoods we want to create all over the city.
I think, Mr. Mayor, to answer to, we have a great opportunity to steer this city with this new master plan and taking all of these things into consideration. And it shouldn't be a master plan like the last one at all, because this was not incorporated in the same method. And to alleviate some of your questions there, we will now be able to have some input in how this city moves forward in its zoning, and what that will be and what it will look like. And, you know, I'm a big proponent of, I really am a big proponent of appeal. I really am. Because I just see that as an area that could eventually be a new retail center, new commercial center for this community. If you drive along Main Street, there's no space left there for any type of commercial, large commercial development. It's gone. Nothing. If a big box wanted to come into this community, there's no place for it to go in this. So these are the kind of things that we can look at in the whole master plan, whether it's north, south, east, or west in this community. And I'm really excited about putting something together, but not putting it on the shelf, putting it into action. Because one of the things I looked at and why I wanted to become a member of the city council was all these plans were just put out there and nothing done. City airport plan. We had all of the city master plan. Yeah, we have one. Well, what are you doing about it? Well, nothing.
Road construction.
Collected dust.
And why spend the taxpayers' money, whether it's a grant or not, there's still taxpayer money to create plans that we don't do a dang thing about. The one that I'm really happy about right now as we spend money is a strategic plan at the airport. And we're holding that accountable, and they're getting things done. And we owe that to the people of the citizens of this community when we do these things, that we're accountable, and we're holding those in the plan accountable. So I'm really a big proponent of this. So, Councilor Corn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To respond to some of the mayor's complaints. One, I didn't like the little curbside trash pickup when I first got it. But I'm telling you, I changed my mind. It works slick. Don't have all the dogs barking every time the garbage truck rolls down the alley. And it's, for my neighborhood, it's not densely populated thing. I mean, it's fully developed, but it's not like some of the Oaks plans. Number two, my observation in other communities and in this community, I mean, we've already got, if you go drive through that housing development north of Mescalero, I think it is, and if you drive through it from east to west, those that are closest to Washington all have alleys to a point, and then none of them have alleys on the way over to Montana. And some of those are big houses. All of them are big houses, but I don't know what it means when you get to high density. The other thing I've noticed going around in various communities I've visited, that's the trend everybody's going to. Because taking out that alleyway right of way is expensive to the developer. Now, I think you can handle a lot of those other problems by really giving a pot to minimum street width, because some of them don't have wide enough streets. Some of these new developments it's just not there. You park 2 vehicles on the curb, and I can't get down the middle of the street in my pickup, much less if I was driving a fire truck or an ambulance or something like that. So I think you can handle that. I think you can handle the parking situation by moving them back a little further, give them more room, making the streets wide, and I don't know, we'd have to talk to the guys that are in charge of gathering traffic, which way they prefer it. I can tell you that I've had conversations. It appears that they do more mileage, but the maintenance on those trucks, because they're not going down the alleys full of potholes that you can't seem to get around to addressing, is an really expensive fix on those big trucks. Got to overhaul the front end or change the springs or whatever happens to wear out or break. But I'm sold on the, what they call 96 gallon.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Containers. And I know there's a lot of people that don't like them, but people don't like change. I got it. I understand that hurdle. So I think and on the park situation, we've talked about in the committee, doing neighborhood organizations to maintain the parks. And we've heard testimony that they don't work, because eventually they don't take care of their parks. And so you got to go do it. And maintaining parks in this city is a very expensive proposition.
Yes, it is.
About $600 an acre, I think, if my memory serves me correctly, to maintain them, water them, fertilize them, do all the stuff you got to do. I also like to point out that for my house, I was sitting here thinking the nearest park may be from the from the McGaffey Sunset intersection, may be the one over where Missouri Avenue School used to be, or the park on the south side of Monterey. Now, we've got sporting complexes that are a lot closer. Got New Knott sitting down there on Sunset, and you've got Stiles Field around the corner, but that's not a park. That's a sports complex. And they play football and they play soccer and they do lots of stuff over there, but there's no playground equipment for the young, seesaws, juggle gyms, whatever you want to put in there. So, and every once in a while I get surprised driving around this community. I find a park that I didn't know lived there. It's amazing how many parks we've got in this community. May not be located in the perfect spot, but that's where they're at. And so I think those are all valid discussion items we need to have as we go through this thing. I'm not opposed to have developers do something like a tennis court or a basketball court, because they're really low maintenance. You don't have to grow grass, you don't have to water them, you don't have to fertilize them, you don't have to mow them. And that might be sufficient to get things done, but those are all things we need to discuss. And I'm anxious to see what this master plan is, if we work through that, to be part of that. And let's have some public meetings on this stuff. I like this stuff we've just been discussing. And we'll see if there's what the interest is in the community. 5 people show up and most people are not real interested. So kind of, that signals me do whatever you think's best. That's right.
I agree with you, and a couple things I don't agree with you with. One is the HOAs. They work beautiful in many, many areas of our country. I mean, they do. You go to Florida, look at the housing developments down there. HOAs operate everything. Some of them as elaborate as having swimming pool, neighborhood swimming pool in their development. But those things work. And why they work, the developer's on the hook.
That's right.
He's got to stay on the hook, and he'll make sure they'll work, because that's part of the development agreement to do that. So, you know, I don't know where you've seen them where they don't work, but I've seen many of them that do work. So, and then to talk about your 96s versus the 300s, I can make an argument, or not an argument, a statement, that 1 stop versus 4 stops going down the alley. That truck stops 1 time for 4 houses, or maybe even 6 houses. Not 4 times, not 6 times in the street. And the other one you have to look at is the placement of utilities.
Yeah.
Where do utilities get placed? We've placed them in the alleys in most of the development. The development that I've been associated with for many years, all I had to put an alley in. And
fresh water and disposable water.
Yep.
Well, in the city of Roswell, most of the water is in the street.
But the sewer line runs in the alley.
Yes.
And electric.
Yep. And so you have to think about that when you talk about not
I'm
doing.
just suggesting we've got a lot of room to cover here.
Oh, I know there's a lot of room to cover, and we just need to make sure we cover all bases with that. You know, an ordinance that says alleys, but you can apply for a variance to get that moved. That's all you have to do. Apply for a variance, put it before planning and zoning, goes to council, done. But if you said no alleys at all required, there may be instances where alleys need to be required. So when you make
I'm not either
when you make a,
one way or the other. I'm just saying that this is what I've seen. Give them the option.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that.
you can always ask for a variance and make it go away if it makes sense. And that's the way I look at that. A lot of areas don't have outlets, and we're talking about when you go back into that area, you know, where you said the larger homes are, they don't have alleys, and we're strong for them. So anyway.
Mr. Chair, the beauty of the study, the master plan itself, is you not only get council member governing authority, but it gives the public a chance to input into the discussion on all of these issues and topics. And you may be looking at trying to do some low income development where $5,000 a lot is affected by alleyways versus non-alleyways, but there are going to be a lot of, but certainly community development would like to have the criteria to work with on the zoning, and not just that. Cielo Grande is a very in demand location for a lot of folks, and we'd sure like to have some criteria on that as well. That master plan will drive that.
Yeah, and as Councilor Corn, hopefully more than 5 people will show up.
Well, I hope so, but
that we do get one.
We've had some of these public meetings and nobody showed up, except the city councilors.
Right.
And sometimes not even all of them.
Right.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Councilor Cortez.
I'm just saying a couple things that I know we consider these outdated, but I think it's informative to look at them and see when you're looking at SWOT analysis or you're looking at these other climate rankings, where we've achieved some of these things or not. I think it's a good indicator of what has occurred as to what actually should have occurred somewhat. So really appreciate planning and zoning staff for providing a lot of data-driven analytics. And I'm curious as to how much of that we can pull out of this that you could go into some data internally without having us have to consultant to do it. I'm just very interested in, can we take these reports that we spent money on and pull good parts of them out that is useful information and not throw it away, right? I'm curious about that. I don't have an opinion on the alley or trash can at this time. I do know that we've had some people contact us in our ward about the challenges with the 96-pound or the 96-gallon, pushing them. Of course, obviously Roswell's very windy, they blow around.
Oh, they lay over and go down the street.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's an issue. And I'd be curious about that and what the landfill people think about efficiency and routing and those things. Having lived in houses with alleys and not alleys across Roswell, obviously there's advantages and disadvantages. So don't have an opinion yet on this, but I think I might be more leaning towards pro alley. Like if we had to, I guess we'll have to poll the city councilors who's pro alley, who's pro 90. They're weird things that divide each other.
I don't care, as long as you've got options.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I don't like to get everything narrowed down to this is the way it is.
I'm with you, Counselor.
Then I got one more for you, and I'm really interested in. So, the space to the west of Cielo Grande, and when you get into that area where everyone's walking, hiking, riding their bikes, off-roading, that area is that's all Spring River discharge, right? So, Chisholm used to water his cows right there because that had been full of water. And you're going to be really challenged to develop that area back there. The high ground and the area around the arterials could be developed. And so some of that property is for sale. I'd like to see, I think there's a lot of outdoor enthusiast people in Roswell that like motorbiking or non-motorized biking or off-road things. I think it's pretty obvious that area is turned into that regardless of any development plan. And I don't see that middle area over there being particularly useful for a developer. So I'd like to see the options of finding a way to incorporate that space west of Sycamore that can't be developed practically for housing or commercial development to be added into open space. And I'll defer to the mayor at this point.
Well, the land by the Game and Fish.
Yeah.
As I recall, when they put that in there, they were planning on having a big pond there for holding fish.
Yeah.
And we've never seen that or seen them bring it on. That was something that I think we need. No, that's just for Quan's.
Okay, yeah, I signed it.
We already signed
Thank
it.
you, sir.
So, we've never seen them come through with that after that was the plan.
Yeah.
And so that's my only thing is that we should have them live up to what I thought they agreed to do.
Yeah, not particularly sure how water conscious that would be, but obviously there's, I think the nice thing about the zoo pond is it's actually in the groundwater, right? So as a natural base, it's not necessarily or used to be, but no,
You'll see it's at the water table.
Yeah, and I think too, and another thing about it is, and I appreciate Councilor Corn's comments on the cost per acre of maintenance of parks. And I'd like to add that, that we don't have to develop all that open spaces park. We have a lot of specialists available to us to do rangeland management, get it back to, more like grassland, native grassland. Went to a really nice dog park in Santa Fe, northwest of Santa Fe. No doubt the property is super expensive, but it was completely open valley, sage land, and open dog. And it was pretty spectacular. So I think there are beautiful things that are naturally occurring that we don't have to necessarily take all this open space and turn it into Bermuda. And we could, there could be some restoration of, that rangeland that would have been native to what we've seen, and there's a beauty in that too, right? And obviously it's less resource intensive, but still a beautiful open space. So that's it. All I got. Alleys, trash cans. I'll contemplate that further. And obviously, I'm a big fan of Cielo Grande because it's Ward 3. So I don't want Ed and me to seem biased towards Ward 3, but I'm curious to know what other parts of the city that we're going to be focusing on the master plan. You said that there was going to be 4.
That's the plan. And if I knew what those 4 areas were, I would share them with you, but we'll talk about it more probably next week.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to, obviously that's an area to develop, but I don't want to see us bias all our energy towards one quadrant of the city in the master plan that we need.
And if there's areas that you haven't, please let us know. Try to incorporate those.
Mr. Chairman, I got a phone call from RC Air Force that have been using part of that runway where we've got our temporary fill up. And it's not a big group, but it's kind of fun to go hang out with those guys. And we've already got, they're not asking for anything. They got what they want. They just need it repaired after they get finished cleaning all that stuff off. But that's a really low budget item. I mean, if we could see to it after we get through doing all this other stuff to give them potentially a water source or something out there, that would give them more than just a bib sticking out of the ground. And let them do what they want to.
We could also develop a golf course up that feed for the Spring River. Up that, no more than it floods out there, you can develop a golf course, another 9 holes or a short course up that.
Maybe a target course.
Yeah, whatever.
A little less intensive.
Yeah. And don't ever forget now, of course, when we have that one pond that's out there, of course, who did that was the flood commission. When they're flood commissioners and stuff, they do a lot of community service that they don't ever get credit for. And they always catch all the heck whenever there's flooding on a huge act of God, but they're not related to God. He just knows them very well. And then the old flood commissioners know very well.
More contemporaneous connection with the Almighty, sir.
Well, they're pretty well contemporaneous.
Are we talking about Dick Smith, or are we talking about
whoever you want it to be? It's up to you. I'm not. You have a freedom of religion.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You didn't mention that you haven't been paid for the last couple of years.
$1 a year and you ain't got that.
I haven't got paid since I've been there.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Well, you just didn't want to be in a higher tax bracket.
It's my final 3 years that matter.
That's right. Okay, thank you. And we shall await further word. Are we moving ahead?
plans, zoning? Get after it.
We're excited about moving ahead.
Well, I haven't even thought about it.
It'll move us out of 1965 to 2025. Okay. Toby.
Chair, committee members, I have one property present today, 732 East Alameda Street. We went out to this property on a PD call. The code blue call, 1 year old died there. Condition of the property is very bad. As soon as I drove up, the front door is open, I could smell it from the street. Multiple dogs there, they had 2 tied up in the front. Found out the property owner is deceased, the son that was living there. He did call the office to see what he could do, but since it's not in his name, he's gonna have to hire a contractor to bring it back up to code. He hasn't called back since. And I pass by there once in a while, make sure nobody's there. I never see anybody, but that changed after 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I stacked the question. So it passed 4-0 in the Public Safety Committee Tuesday. It's time for questions.
Any questions? We got a motion?
It's your turn.
Is it my turn? Yes, sir. Figured it might be. Mr. Chair, what's the motion? Will we be sending it to city council?
Consent.
Consent?
Yes.
Make a motion to send it to city council for consent for resolution 25-XX, considering removal, recommending adoption of the resolution to remove the demolition, the removal or demolition of the dilapidated structure.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Being none, so moved. Thank you, Cody.
You know, I'm gonna have to start giving him a harder time.
Yeah.
He's getting by entirely too easy.
Ms. Cosley, it's your turn.
Right. We are professional, services for an outdoor early childhood play and learn area. On January, we issued a quote, an RFQ, and it went, vendors qualified per RFP 25-002 engineering and architecture services on January 30th, 2025. We had a non-mandatory pre-bidding that was held on February 7th. And the proposals were due back on February 21st. We are looking at having design plan so that we can, so they can be funded, phased, and bid out for construction. We received 2 bids, and we picked the lower one, so we are recommending that this be forwarded to the finance committee. The Studio 27 was the one that we are recommending for the amount of $38,843.93.
Can you give me that number again? 38,000.
493.38.
Yeah, a little trouble with.
And this is a donation, gifts and grants deal.
Donation, gift, grants, yes.
So you're not asking for any,
No budget adjustment.
no budget adjustment or any of that kind of stuff. Okay. Make sure it's on next week's agenda.
If you'll make a motion, we'll get it there.
Let him make it.
Okay. Oh, you made the first two, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to even the score here.
Okay.
I think I'm up 2.
No, you're not. I
I'm
keep
not
very
keeping
close
score.
records.
Someone might. I know.
You're behind one.
Behind one.
This is your time.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Unless I get paid 3-1 for today.
Oh, you will.
Is that a income like a CPI putting up with me? It has a percent increase.
We'll discuss that at a later date.
Yes, sir.
The jury's still out on
I'll
that.
see if that helps. I think I'll be buying the beer. Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we go and send it to finance.
To finance.
Okay, so we recommend that we send the award of professional services for the Roswell Public Library outdoor play area, learn area to Studio 26, 27. Yeah, Studio 26 wasn't as good as 7, I think. And player room to Studio 27 in the amount of $38,843.93, not inclusive of New Mexico gross receipts tax.
No, it does include.
It does include it? It's inclusive. I correct myself, inclusive of New Mexico gross receipts tax.
Second.
I don't know, I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Being none, so moved. Now, Rita. I guess I'll ask online first. Do you have anything, Rita, you want to talk about? That was it? Okay. Anyone on the line? Okay, so I do have a chair comment. We seem to have some issues in our community that with some of these vacant homes, Toby, that we have to just sit back and go through a process. And that process then relies upon the judicial system to take care of something. And there's an instance occurring in a neighborhood right now. That's a vacant home that it's really a nuisance house. The property has become a nuisance. And I do not know if we have an ordinance that covers nuisance properties and what is within inside that ordinance. Because that I'd like to see.
Pretty much we do, but pretty much the same process that code enforcement uses to condemn properties, correct?
So
I mean,
I would like to see that come forward so we can change that or make some recommendations or whatever we can do to get some of this nuisance property activity taken care of.
Mr. Chair, could we bring that as an informational item to this committee next?
Please. Okay. That's what I'm talking about.
303 West East Matthews. There's nothing but stuff in that house, every yard sale, everything, chairs, everything is around the whole house.
Yeah, we've got some real issues in this community, Mr.
You know,
Mayor.
I mean,
agree with
it's
you.
not, I mean, you could walk to the door, but every other piece of property in that was covered up by stuff from anywhere from office desks to
Bring that as an information.
chairs and
The
everything.
difference between
the code.
what we're doing when we're demoing those houses versus a nuisance. I think what's the depth? Is there a distinction here between the nuisance and the things that code enforcement we're doing? Removing structures?
I
Or,
mean, yeah, right, for me,
Okay.
I feel like it's the same.
you don't have it memorized?
No. But I mean, I will tell you, the problem is we take like the Delaware, talk about that for just a second. That property, we were sent to court, judge, 0 fine, 0 jail time, like the end. The problem's not solved. That's the problem, in my opinion. And
Right.
that's what we've got to figure out.
Exactly. And so that's why I want to look at these ordinances because maybe we'll move them to magistrate court. If we can.
Mr. Chair, with a nuisance,
Because I've got a longer term idea of things. I'll just tell you right now, I'm not going to hide it. If this city looks into having an administrative judge, not elected position, and then you move things that are ordinance issues related to the administrative judge, everything else goes to magistrate court. That will reduce our costs tremendously. And I'll sit here and talk to the municipal judge about it. It's just real. What's the court cost of $700,000 a year, Councilor Corn?
Pretty close to that.
yes.
Yeah. And this is what we're getting as an answer?
And the guys are getting frustrated. I'll be quite honest with you. And Josh and I have talked about it, trying to come up with some ideas to maybe recommend sentencing. Maybe that would help. But at the end of the day, even when the case goes forward, the property still looks like it does, right? And that's not the goal.
Well, and how would you like to be the neighbor next door?
Sure. I wouldn't.
I wouldn't want to be. So maybe I've just made an enemy of the judge across the street, but we've got to do something to make things different. And we're not.
I'm not real sure you don't need to change state law before you get started down that path.
Well, we'll find out. We'll find out whether we can go down that street or not.
I think by looking at the ordinance itself, and if, depending on what the ordinance says, we could look at the strengths and weaknesses of the ordinance as it currently exists, explore other opportunities. If you could go after the property owner on the nuisance, as opposed to the individual getting arrested every other week and getting out the next day, whether that's the judge or the district attorney, quite frankly, dropping charges and those types of things.
Right.
You could go after property ownership and condemnation.
Well, that's this particular house that we're talking about. The owner is not even living here, doesn't even know about it. They don't even know what's going on in their house. The neighbors have tried to contact them, the cell phone's been cut off.
And there's several of those around town,
In this
very
whole
similar
community.
situation.
Yep.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'd like to see something brought forth that we can start talking about, some dialogue about this.
Damn near every block, you just drive around a little bit.
Yeah.
I get the phone calls, yes, sir.
Yeah, I bet you do.
Yeah.
Well, you get them too, Toby. You know, but your hands are tied.
It seems like we have a lot of that with ordinances. We can't enforce them. We're having challenges. People are trying to enforce them, but we're having a hard time closing the circle on that.
If
I don't know how you would have an internal administrative procedure that's in the entity that is, I mean, you know, I don't know. There's got to be a way, but
there's got to be a way to do
ordinance
it.
has a very, you know,
There's got to be a way to get it done. If not, then we stay with our system we have, but.
We just give you guys homework. So we just gave you a bunch of homework.
I think our city attorney's
figured out
some research.
Get it?
He's doing some research.
Okay, so awesome.
Mr. Chairman, I think you'll notice too in your packet on code enforcement's monthly report, they probably sent close to 400 notices last month.
Yeah.
The chances are, I would bet without looking, 80% of them are within contract, year, because they know the system. If I don't mow my weeds during the summertime and go to court, get a 90-day extension before they know it, now they're dead weeds.
Right.
They're not green weeds, they're dead weeds. And now they're a fire hazard. But it's the same people.
It's always the same people.
They know you by first name, don't they?
He knows my first name. I can call him, give him an address, and he'll tell me the name.
Yes.
Maybe we could have a yearly schedule on there where you check the box if they've been cited before. And when they go back or something. I mean, you know, it's just, in today's time of computers, you can say how many times this property's been cited and nothing happened. And then, you know, then it becomes, when we get that, and it's been to the judge 3 times, and he hadn't done anything, that's a place for us to call the judge before us and say, why not?
Does the report, that number of cases filed versus dismissed versus resolved, is that cases filed means went to municipal court?
Yes.
Okay, and then, okay. So that's what that line means, number of cases filed with municipal court. And then number of cases dismissed by municipal court or.
Dismissed by the officer.
By the officer.
Yes.
Okay, so maybe we need to, maybe.
Into court, got, they completed what they had to do.
I just think maybe we should.
I'll change the title.
I guess for that, but I was thinking maybe we should statistically track of the cases brought by the city of Roswell ordinance people to municipal court. What are the results that we're seeing? So that way we can actually start, and we all feel it anecdotally, right? You guys are experiencing it day to day. I don't experience it. But one of the best things to be able to show is statistically what is happening. And then that, of course, is public record for the public to see as to what's happening in that loop from ordinance to municipal court to resolution by the municipal court. So why don't we just collect those things? It would be that hard.
It's already tracked by the court. You can't ask them for it.
Yeah, but can we have it in our development?
Ask the court for it routinely. They will presumably provide all of the statistics a month.
Did it? And then it shows where it started from our enforcement team.
You will, the only people that are going to start it are code enforcement personnel because it's municipal ordinance. So typically it only goes to the municipal.
Maybe we could have that data, start putting that data in our meetings.
Yeah, or animal control puts, public safety puts the animal control in there now, what the disposition of the court is.
That's maybe helpful.
Do you just want like the disposition of each case that went to?
No, or
When it was repeated.
I don't know what the municipal court report looks like.
What they were putting in what they put in the public safety for the animal control, they were just putting a copy of the complaint or the decision by the court.
JNS.
Yeah, they were just putting a copy of that in the packet.
So you get requested.
You just see, add the data.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. I have nothing else. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Whether he's against her.
No.
You don't have them all, do you?
Yeah, nice to meet you. Good to see you.